Have you ever found yourself in a quiet moment of doubt, hearing a voice inside your head whispering, "I'm not good enough"? Whether it's about your career, relationships, or even how you view yourself, this voice can often be the loudest one in your mind, and it has the power to shape your entire reality. You might find yourself wondering if you'll ever measure up, if you'll ever be enough, and most of all, if you'll ever find true happiness. If you've ever felt like this, I want you to know that you're not alone. This is a lie that many of us tell ourselves, and it's one of the biggest obstacles to our happiness. But today, I want to share something with you that can help you break free from this cycle. It's something that the great Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky understood deeply, a truth that can change the way you see yourself and the world around you. So what is this lie, and how can you overcome it? Let's take a closer look. Chapter 1. Who was Fyodor Dostoevsky? Before we dive into the impact of this lie, it's important to understand the man behind the insights, Fyodor Dostoevsky. Born in 1821 in Russia, Dostoevsky lived a life filled with both extraordinary challenges and groundbreaking intellectual insights. He was a writer, philosopher, and psychologist whose novels delve into the complexities of the human soul. Through his works, he explored the deepest corners of human suffering, morality, guilt, and redemption. But what makes Dostoevsky so unique is his profound understanding of the human condition. His works are more than just stories. They are psychological investigations into the inner workings of the human mind. Dostoevsky wasn't just interested in what people do, but why they do it. Why do we feel unworthy? Why do we doubt ourselves? Why do we spiral into self-doubt and guilt? Dostoevsky himself faced immense personal suffering. He was imprisoned for 4 years in a Siberian labor camp, faced chronic health problems, and battled deep existential questions throughout his life. His own struggles fueled his understanding of the psychological and philosophical dilemmas that so many of us grapple with today. His characters are often people who feel alienated, isolated, and incapable of finding peace within themselves. These characters embody the lie that many of us tell ourselves, "I am not enough." Dostoevsky's works are an invitation to confront this lie, to challenge it, and ultimately to release it. Chapter 2. The Lie. You are not enough. So what exactly is this lie? It's the belief that you're not enough, that there's something inherently wrong with you. This belief may look different for everyone, but it often manifests like this. I'm not good enough to achieve my goals. I'm not worthy of love or happiness. I'll never be as successful or talented as others. I'm fundamentally flawed, and I can't change. The reason this lie is so powerful is that it's sneaky. It operates in the background of your mind, constantly reinforcing the idea that you are incomplete and inadequate. It prevents you from reaching your potential and causes you to settle for less than you deserve. This lie impacts every aspect of your life, from your self-esteem to your relationships, from your career to your overall well-being. Dostoevsky's characters are perfect examples of this inner struggle. Take Notes from Underground, for instance. The protagonist, an unnamed narrator, lives in isolation, filled with self-loathing and an intense sense of inadequacy. He believes that society has rejected him because he is flawed, because he also rejects himself. This self-imposed exile is his way of avoiding the truth that he feels unworthy of connection or love. He tells himself that he is too weak, too insignificant, too flawed to interact with the world around him. Similarly, in Crime and Punishment, a brilliant but deeply troubled young man who believes that his intellectual superiority grants him the right to transcend morality. But his belief in his own inadequacy, his sense of guilt, and the belief that he is too far gone from redemption keep him in a spiral of self-doubt and despair. The core of both characters' struggles is the belief that they are not enough. This idea poisons their ability to live fulfilled, happy lives. Chapter 3. The Origins of the Lie. Where does this lie come from? Why do we tell ourselves that we are not enough? The roots of this belief run deep. It often begins in childhood, when we're told by society, parents, teachers, or peers what we should do or who we should be. We begin to internalize these external standards, measuring our worth by what we accomplish, how we look, or how others perceive us. But Dostoevsky takes this idea even further. In his novel, The Brothers Karamazov, the characters constantly struggle with their sense of purpose and worth. Ivan Karamazov, the intellectual brother, rejects the idea of a God who allows suffering in the world, convinced that such a world is unjust and that he is unworthy of divine love. He sees himself as trapped in a world where morality and meaning are unattainable, and that rejection of meaning leads him into deeper despair. This existential crisis, questioning the value of one's existence in a chaotic world, stems from the belief that we are not enough. Ivan's inability to reconcile his doubts about morality and suffering causes him to feel disconnected from God and from others. He isolates himself, much like the narrator in Notes from Underground, believing that he is incapable of achieving true peace or happiness. So why do we feel unworthy in the first place? Dostoevsky seems to suggest that it's because we measure ourselves by external, often arbitrary standards. But true peace doesn't come from achieving these standards. It comes from accepting ourselves as we are, flaws and all. Chapter 4: The Psychological Toll of Believing the Lie. The psychological toll of believing the lie that you are not enough can be overwhelming. It's more than just a passing thought. It becomes a core belief that shapes your entire life. It leads to feelings of anxiety, depression, and chronic self-doubt. You begin to internalize this belief, thinking that you are inherently flawed and unworthy. This belief causes you to avoid opportunities, reject help, and pull away from meaningful relationships because you're convinced that you don't deserve them. This pattern is clearly seen in Raskolnikov's journey in Crime and Punishment. He commits terrible crime, believing that his intellectual brilliance places him above the rules of society. But despite his external actions, he is tortured by the lie that he is not enough, and it drives him deeper into guilt and despair. He can't forgive himself, can't accept redemption, because he believes that he's too far gone. This psychological torment affects his every decision and keeps him from finding peace. In many ways, Raskolnikov's inability to release the belief that he is unworthy mirrors the struggles that many of us face. The more we believe the lie, the more we spiral into self-destructive behavior. This lie keeps us from taking risks, from making connections, and from embracing life as it is. Instead, we remain stuck in our own minds, imprisoned by self-doubt. Chapter 5: Releasing the Lie. You are enough. So how do we free ourselves from the grip of this lie? How do we stop believing that we are not enough? The first step is to challenge the belief. You must recognize that this lie is not the truth. It's just the story you've been telling yourself. You are not defined by your flaws, your mistakes, or your past. You are defined by your humanity. Dostoevsky's characters found peace not by becoming perfect, but by accepting that they were flawed and still worthy of love, redemption, and happiness. Alyosha, the youngest Karamazov brother, is a shining example of this. Despite the chaos and dysfunction around him, he remains calm, grounded, and connected to his faith because he accepts who he is, imperfections and all. The second step is to practice self-compassion. Learn to treat yourself as you would treat a friend. Speak to yourself with kindness and understanding, especially in moments of struggle or self-doubt. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to make mistakes. The key is to acknowledge your mistakes, learn from them, and move forward, knowing that you are enough. The third step is to let go of external validation. Stop measuring your worth by what others think of you or how well you perform. This is a difficult step, especially in a world that constantly tells us that our worth is tied to external success. But Dostoevsky's characters teach us that true peace comes when we stop seeking approval from others and start finding validation within ourselves. Chapter 6: Practical Steps to Overcome the Lie. So how can you start letting go of the lie that you're not enough? Here are some practical steps you can take. 1. Reframe your thoughts. When you catch yourself thinking that you're not enough, reframe it. Challenge the thought with questions like, is this true? What evidence do I have to prove this wrong? This can help interrupt the cycle of negative self-talk. 2. Embrace vulnerability. Allow yourself to be imperfect. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. When you embrace your vulnerabilities, you open yourself up to authentic connections and real growth. 3. Celebrate small wins. Focus on progress rather than perfection. Celebrate the small victories, whether it's learning something new, taking a risk, or simply showing up for yourself. These moments of progress add up and build your confidence over time. 4. Cultivate gratitude. Start a daily gratitude practice. Take time each day to reflect on the things you're grateful for, including your own strengths. Gratitude shifts your focus away from what you lack and helps you appreciate what you already have. 5. Surround yourself with supportive people. Spend time with people who lift you up and encourage you. Avoid toxic environments that reinforce feelings of inadequacy. Your relationships have a huge impact on how you view yourself, so choose to be around people who remind you of your worth. To conclude, the lie that you're not enough is just that, a lie. It's a story you've told yourself, but it is not the truth. You are enough. You always have been. And while it's easy to get lost in the noise of external expectations and self-doubt, it's important to remember that your worth does not depend on perfection. It does not depend on what you achieve, how you look, or how others perceive you. It depends on who you are as a person. Fyodor Dostoevsky's characters may have been tortured by self-doubt, but they also showed us that redemption and peace are possible when we accept ourselves, flaws and all. You can do the same. Let go of the lie, embrace your imperfections, and start living a life rooted in acceptance, peace, and love. You are enough, and that, my friend, is the truth.